Morning, everybody.
Morning.
Morning, sir.
Chief Bell's going to pass around a packet, and there'll be some for anybody in the gallery that.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Good morning. How are you today?
Morning, sir.
Okay.
So I'm assuming this is different than what I had to start with?
Thank you.
Is this
Hi,
different?
How are you?
Version. I apologize.
For those in the audience that have some questions, anybody?
Also, Commissioner Goodbread, I'm customer service oriented as well. If you'd like to come by, we could service you at any time.
I deal with your office the second most in there.
I think you service him pretty much on Highway 70 East.
I got a question that has nothing to do with the budget. Why is the speed limit dropped to 60 when you get to E&E on going east but not coming west?
You know, it's out of our control. We've got our illustrious DOT that regulates the speeds. If you recall back when they done the widening of 70 West, you know, we had the different speeds such as what we have in the area you're alluding to, such as what we have on 70 East in that 4-lane. You know, it's going east, it's one speed, coming west, it's another speed, and it's going right in front of residential neighborhoods, and it's 60, 65 miles an hour. So it's trying to rationalize with our state partners sometimes is not the easiest thing to do, although we are still trying.
I just thought it was strange. It was 60 going east and it's 65 going west, and it's
Yes, sir.
not a bit of difference.
Yes, sir. It's a struggle. So that kind of segues. Good morning. My name is Noel Stephen. I'm your sheriff. I'm very proud and blessed to be so. The commissioner kind of segues me into my presentation, just talking about a little statistics. Let me get my. Getting everything going here. Some statistical data as it relates to what we do as your sheriff's office. First slides depicting the citations and warnings that's been written over the last couple of years and what's projected on what we've done year to date, and then what's projected for 2019. As you can see with the different colorations of the graph showing citations and warnings. Both have been exceeding that over last year, and then projected to be more than what has been historically. Relating to Commissioner Owens's area in Berman Road being the most patrolled street still to date that we have in our county. Despite what others think that it might be in the northwest corner of the county, it is Berman Road. I appreciate the fact of Waste Management, i.e. Tony Bishop, that pays 24 hours a week to me to have a detail deputy out there primarily for that traffic on Berman Road, both north and south, if you will, the landfill. So they run traffic from 441 southeast to 441 north, still riding big trucks, citations for speed, and DOT doing excessive weights. Every day we're out there, we're having those citations. So it's, as you see, and I forward the speed trailer information to you, as well as the other speed information we get. So it's productive in some areas of our county. Sadly, that's one area that is not heeding, and we're not seeing a change in our enforcement. Although our enforcement's increasing, we're still having issues.
Which portion, Chair?
Sir?
Which portion is not responding?
Mike.
Which portion did you just say?
Primarily Berman Road.
Okay.
We see the effectiveness of our enforcement in many other subdivisions, many of the main thoroughfares in town, but sadly Berman Road is not heeding the warnings. So we have started documenting the warnings. If they've been warned once, then they're getting a hard copy citation. Next slide references the complaints that we've taken. This is the road patrol deputies, our 40 front line. We have 4 shifts of 10 that are working 12 hours shifts. So this is the productivity of what they're doing. As you can see, the call volume has been increasing. Even though our population is not increasing, my call volume is increasing. Anywhere from burglaries, thefts, probably 85% of what we do every day, 85 to 90% of what we have in our incarcerated in our jail is directly reflected to drugs. Mostly from the stealing to supply the drug habit is what we have incarcerated. Next slide that I'm alluding to is our warrants. Primarily when we solve cases, we identify who the bad guys, bad ladies are involved in these cases. We can't find them initially. Warrants get issued and have to be served on these individuals. As you can see, our warrants that have been served are increasing. The concern that I have is the warrants that are not being served, that the individuals have to take a little bit of more, officers have to take a little bit more work to find them, is increasing. So we're not bringing these people to justice that have stolen, that we have identified and have a case on. So ultimately our victims are still victimized and we're not getting any cost to restitution, and these people more than likely are still out there thieving continuously. So some emphasis has to be directed towards this as it's a growing issue. 911 communications, we've done a lot of discussions with the chief and I, also with IT and the demand for communications. Our dispatchers have been 16-4 per shift for quite some time. I had a sergeant in there. I took the sergeant's position and made 2 ladies in there to do a swing shift to add an additional person during the heavy call volumes. This slide just depicts the amount of phone calls and 911 calls that's received into the center. And then on top of these call volumes, then they have to dispatch the ambulance, they have to dispatch the fire truck, and they have to dispatch the deputies to take care of the complaints.
Sheriff, what time of day is the heaviest call volume?
It depends. It used to be during the weekends, but now it's every day of the week, primarily from 3 o'clock in the afternoon till 10 o'clock at night. We're seeing an 8 to 9 hour, call volume peak, if you will.
If I remember correctly, when the fire chief gave his presentation, it seems like now Friday was his main day, where I don't know why Friday, but it was, so.
Yes, sir. It used to be the Friday, Saturday nights, when the people let their hair down, if you will, full moon, new moon, whatever the case may be. But we're experiencing to where our call volume doesn't slow down. It's every evening we're having issues. Of course, I'm having to send deputies to, a man and wife domestic, and then I'm having to send them to a domestic between an 8-year-old and a parent because the 8-year-old won't go to bed, or the 8-year-old won't listen to the parent. It's our society today that sadly has a gun-toting, badge-wearing deputy having to go to the house for us to try to get the parent to discipline to parent their child. And sadly, it's a trait and a skill that's being lost. But we are the ones that have to respond and take care of it at the cost of the taxpayer. But I cannot not send a deputy to that 8-year-old complaint, because then we end up with a domestic situation. So it's not a good situation. Once again, in relation to our call volume increase is depicted in our evidence intake and submittal. I currently have 2 females, 2 ladies that occupy the evidence room and the crime scene processing for the entire agency. As we all know, here recently, a couple weeks ago, We had 2 accidental overdoses of a mid-20-year-old individual and a mid-30-year-old. Sadly, they had injected themselves with a heroin that was laced with fentanyl. So this had sadly taken these individuals' lives. The 35-year-old had been in our system, and we had been dealing with him since he was 12 years old. He had developed a problem that continuously got worse and worse. He'd been to jail several times, been to prison, and sadly was still struggling with a monkey on his back as to substance abuse. But the problem lies in your sheriff's office at that point that a lot of people don't see, is that we then have to do a death investigation. We have to take that investigation and handle it as a homicide until we prove otherwise. So now that these individuals have injected themselves with this poison, I have to prove that beyond a shadow of a doubt, that they have injected themselves and weren't killed by somebody. So that one Tuesday morning, we found those 2, and they were about simultaneously reported, 7:30-ish that morning. I had over 20 staff doing those 2 death investigations that could not do anything else for the next 4 to 5 hours, and that's hustling to get them done, all focus on proving that they injected that poison into themselves. So I couldn't do anything else as the call volumes came in that had to be dealt with. Calls backed up. So it's definitely a problem that we all have to deal with, because in my budget, as we all know, there's money for enforcement. There's no money for prevention. So really that's where the drug courts and the veterans courts and these things are working, the mental health courts are trying to, Commissioner Burrows and I sitting on the Public Safety Coordinating Council, trying to find ways to work on recidivism, because we got to change the way that we're doing business, because, we're spending $20 million and we're still having the same problem tomorrow. Once again, as Ms. Sharon and Alan alluded to, the IT, I understand your standpoint and your consideration, Commissioner Burrows, on the consolidation. It'd take a lot of work, but we work very well together. When we see some issues, we communicate. Recently, the administrator and the clerk and I sat down working on some of those very things. So with Alan and Angel, trying to get that done. But this is just some numbers as it relates with my 3 IT folks, that they're 24/7. My operation, as we all know, never shuts down, so they have to be available. Fortunately, a lot of that can be accessed from offsite, but a lot of it can't. So this is the amount of devices that they're dealing with, alluding to laptops, cell phones, desktops, and servers. How many vehicles and different locations that we have to deal with just my 3. Jumping into the budget, I broke out each individual category. I'm asking for 4 in my law enforcement. I'm asking for 4 additional personnel. Those 4 additional personnel are 1 in traffic, 2 in the CAT team. Of course, traffic, I think, is self-explanatory, to primarily focus on traffic in the residential and main thoroughfares in our area. 2 CAT team members, which, because of the call volume and the warrants that we have in place, that they can concentrate on identifying these individuals, locate these individuals, incarcerate these individuals, to try to control that call volume that they're continuously stealing. They're continuously staying ahead of the road deputies that don't have the time to give it the attention that they need, to try to wait an hour, hour and a half in the bushes to wait on these individuals to show up. And then 4th position in this budget would be the crime scene tech. As I alluded to, I have 2 individuals that currently take care of 24/7 custodial of the evidence room and the evidence processing that has to happen. due to major crimes, due to these overdoses that I alluded to, trying to get fingerprints on burglaries. So we can, as time goes on, it's very hard for us to prosecute our cases without physical evidence. So the prosecution through the state attorney's office does a great job, but as we get those individuals, if they can't prove a case, if it's not on video, they struggle to try to prove these cases and get these people incarcerated. So we're still chasing them, biting at their heels, waiting on them to mess up enough to where we can build enough cases. And it's the same individuals over and over again, so trying to build stronger cases moving forward. Information technology, the computers and the amount of computers that I just alluded to, similar to the clerk, we've got to have more positions because we're getting more machines, we're getting more technology. You know, my dispatchers that I allude to, I think they're up to 6 or 7 monitors that they're monitoring at their station. So it's just getting very, very involved and trying to chase all the calls that they've got to have to keep the computers. And sadly, there's people like me that can't figure it out sometimes, so they got to spend time to come to me, take 30 minutes out of their time, and I simply didn't know which button to push. So it's sadly, that's just the reality, and with as many machines as we got, that happens. Communications, I've asking for one new position. I've got the 16 in there as I alluded to. I feel that I need a line supervisor, once again, to monitor and bounce between those shifts, that one person making our department and division run more efficiently and effective as we move forward. Animal control, one of the services I provide for you. No additional personnel in there. I hope that y'all are satisfied with what that's operating. We're still working on expansion. The better we do our job, the more that it costs. Where our euthanizations are down, our adoptions are up. I'm very proud of that. But as we're being more effective and efficient, it's costing us more money to vaccinate these animals, getting them out, and we're not recouping all of our costs completely out of there because we keep them minimal just to offset some cost and get them adopted. So we're not having to euthanize.
Sheriff, our telephone calls complaint have gone away. We appreciate what you do there.
Yes, sir.
I mean, in the years past, they were.
And it's one of those things as we move forward and as people look at my budget, this is a $500,000 increase to my budget over the last 4 years with 6 additional staff that necessarily I didn't ask for, but I'm doing it for y'all. There's nobody better than me to run it, I feel, but it's hard for the citizens to see that 500,000, 6 people is tasked to my part, and I'll do a little better separation here shortly.
Sheriff,
Yes, sir.
I had 1 or 2 people ask me, and I don't know if this is in your long-range future plan, but they'd asked me about a large animal quarantine area for when you get horses or cattle that people aren't feeding. Is there a future for that to actually trailer horses or cattle to a place to try to feed them up and get them?
Just because of the confidentiality, I'd like to remain, to that, but the administrator and I have worked together, and we have a designated location that if I needed to go pick up 20 head of cows that we didn't know who they were, if I needed to go pick up, a dozen horses, we've got paddocks, I've got stables, and I've got enough land to take care of that, in a place to feed them. While we try to find other arrangements. So I appreciate that, and we've done that probably not soon after I took over animal control. So I really appreciate that.
I did not know that.
It's not the best location right now, but it works and serves its purpose. Of course, I can always move the post in the shed, to another location later on. But and of course, I've got pretty good contacts. I can always use the market or You know, you might wake up one morning and there'll be a dozen horses in your cow pen, you know, so we'll
I
commandeer whatever we need to get done.
I had two people ask me about that, and I said, not that I know of, do we have that type of resource, so I just thought I'd ask you.
Yes, sir.
Sheriff,
Thank you.
for 10 years, I've been asking this county and this board for a leash law. I am so tired of trying to do the right thing and walk my dog, getting attacked. I can't even walk them because they come over and then my dog wants to play, they want to fight. We recently, I think it was in Lee County, had a gentleman that was attacked by multiple dogs, died from that. What is it going to take to wake people up and say, you know, if you're going to have animals, keep them on your own property. If you can't afford to fence them or put in an area for them, don't have them. Because, you know, it impacts everybody when these animals are running loose. Sally Paxton just had her cats mutilated, mauled, and killed. They tried to go after her. She was able to beat them off, people out there on Dark Hammock, or Indian Dark Hammock Road, letting their animals run loose, okay? If you find them $500 when you pick them up, I'll bet you they'd manage to get a fence or something to keep them the next time. But it's not fair to the people that abide by the law and control their animals and walk them on a leash when they're off their property. I paid $4,600 to have chain link fence put in my backyard so that my dog didn't go over and terrorize other neighbors and eat their cats. And believe me, he could probably take 4 or 5 at a mouthful. But I don't let him do that. So when are we going to wake up like other counties and say, we need an ordinance? And I hear people say, well, you know, I use my dog for cat. That's different. That's a work animal. Nobody expects you to do that. But if you have dogs in a neighborhood and they're out there running loose and we have it, ask your director, you know, how many times he's out there and dogs are running loose. And I have them all over my neighborhood. They've killed deer. They've run the deer off. They've killed animals. They've killed chickens. I don't understand what the big issue is about, you know, instead of saying, oh, the dog has to be under your control if he's off your property. Right.
Commissioner, the short answer is we do have a leash law, and they are required to keep them on their property. And if they leave their property, they are responsible. They're supposed to be on a leash. When our animal control identifies these kind of things, and such as Miss Sally Paxton's situation primarily, they'll go cite that individual, and then it's a progressive discipline, if you will, you know, process. If we went straight to $500, you know, we together work on what the fees and the fine schedule is, you know, so the 6 of us can control that and what it is. So if we need to reevaluate that, which I feel that we do, you know, we need to make sure that what we're doing is effective, you know, and trying to also keep in consideration that sometimes the dogs are, you know, just get, you know, rambunctious and just want to run out there. So, you know, if somebody's walking down the road and somebody just their passive dog runs out there just to say hello, do we really want to cite them $500 citation? You know, so it's trying to find that balance in what's going to work and be effective. But we do dog bites. The very thing Sally's neighbor got fined, you know, and got cited for not keeping their dog, and then it goes to the magistrate. So those are the kind of things that we are in control of that we maybe need to revisit.
I heard a quote the other day from a very long time ago, and it applies to everything, that when people do illegal things, that the time has to fit the crime. And if there is no time, just like you mentioned a few minutes ago about Berman Road, you give them a warning first, okay? The problem is they know that. Word gets out real fast, okay? Oh, well, you're just going to get a warning the first time, so then they drive like maniacs till they get that first warning. I tell you what, you start slapping them with the fines and let it go against their license, you'll stop that real quick. I would be willing to bet my life on it. You'll stop that real quick. But
yes, sir, but you also have to, yes, sir.
If they know they can get away with it, just like these kids with these little buzz bums running up and down 9th Street. I get calls all the time. And God bless you, because these flashing signs, I've even had times when I'm a little over the speed limit and that thing catches my eye, so, ooh, you know, and I slow right down. And the officer sitting out there at Dixie Ranch. That helps. I watch people. I see the brake lights come on, you know. So, and I appreciate you doing that.
I could say that to that, Commissioner, is that in my almost 33 years come November of doing this job, I can pick one family that was a mother and father that never got in any trouble. They had 8 children. Of those 8 children, they all have been to county jail. They all have been to prison multiple times, and now those children are having children. Neither the parents nor those 8 children or their grandkids have paid a dime in ad valorem tax. You know, it's not their choice, and it's not by their own, you know, they just don't make the money or live in such a fashion that they can do so. But because of our criminal justice system, and some of them have just as much time at that sheriff's office or in the system as I do, we've spent, our taxpayers here locally, I know, have spent over $1 million on these people, and we're still dealing with them today. Back and forth to jail, paying our $70 per diem a day, and because the penalties aren't fitting the crimes, because it's not deterring them. So, I mean, I say to that is just dealing with our legislators in Tallahassee. You know, Commissioner Owens deals with that, you know, has been up there with the school board position she had, and, you know, they're in control of that criminal justice reform and the penalties that fit the crime. So it's we all got to get together and deal with that to try to get, once again, with the steps with drug court and mental health court to try to prepare these people to work on recidivism.
That's exactly what you just said is what I have been so irritated about, is spending the amount of money we spend in this county for all these programs, drug court, this court, that court, and yet I ask the question, what's the rate of recidivism? What good is that doing? All we're doing is we're bankrupting our residents so that they can act irresponsibly because they know they got a golden parachute. And now I'm sorry, and I don't mean to be, I am very passionate about this, you know, because I think it comes right back to the parenting. And if the parents have no respect for the law, you can't expect the kids to.
Well, and that's hence why I'm here today, you know, and you get faced by your peers as well as I do for the $20 million budget that people just see the patrol car going down the road and think that that's $20 million. I'm not getting any services out of it, you know, but I'm servicing a small percentage, fortunately, of people that they don't ever see.
Well, God bless you guys, because I couldn't do your job. I'd hurt somebody.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Sorry about that.
All right. Keep on going.
Court security, staying flat, everything's the same. School resource officers program, once again, we've all been through that. We know that we're getting we're probably a 55-45 split with the school board. That cost of the operation is still over $1 million. I think their contribution this year is $543. Corrections department, a little bit of a slight uptick. Once again, what I'm trying to do with a lot of these, and I've done throughout my division of my certified officers, is I'm adding a $2,000 a year flat fee to my certified once again. Last year you allowed me to do that, and I suspended the step. This year I'd like to do the same thing, taking it from 36 to 38. Starting pay, which affects everybody, all the certified up to lieutenants. The city currently is starting at 39.8 or 39.9. School teachers are making 40,000. So I'm trying to, once again, work on retention. I come to you last year talking about this, and I'm here before you talking to you again. Since the 1st of May, I have lost 13 certified officers. 12 certified, 1 civilian. 6 from the jail, 6 from the road, and 1 civilian from animal control. I've got to try to stop this. My goal is to try to get to 40 and then reinstitute the step and try to compare. I'm never going to make the 50,000 to the coast, but I'm trying to get to that 40,000 so my people can see they're happy here, but it's all about the money and retention.
Okay. All right.
The next slide is showing what I feel is something that gets lost and has been lost, although we've discussed it. The left-hand side shows the 3 constitutional obligations that I have, and the right-hand side shows the 4 categories that I operate for y'all. Once again, there's nobody better to operate those other than I, but when you do the separation between the two, you know, I'm a 55 law enforcement. My obligation is about 55% of my budget. This is the employee growth overall for the entire department since 2006. This graph depicts the employee growth breakdown. Once again, showing the overall in red, my obligation in green, and y'all's in blue. So neither one of those numbers have upticked very much. Once again, keeping in mind the big uptick when you look at the overall numbers has been the 13 SROs and the 6 animal control over the last 4 years. As everybody else and as y'all, probably 10% of my budgets, a little over $2 million is dedicated to health insurance. I'm currently still working with the Sheriff's Consortium. There's 9 sheriffs currently in the consortium. They're all small. I'm probably one of the biggest ones. I think we've got right under 500 lives in our plan. We just got United Healthcare that's going to be our insurance carrier. So that's a plus for us because we've been trying to grow a panel, or what's the network to, you know, doctors and hospitals to buy in. So now that we've got a true insurance company that's giving the sheriffs our good rate as we get through our liabilities, our car insurance, and those kind of programs that, you know, that Robbie can tell you the sheriffs have got it cheaper than anybody else can do. We're hoping that there's 4 sheriffs that are going to buy in this year, or at least 3, to take our 500 lives to 900 plus, and we can start working on a reduction. But it's one of those things, as the sheriff and as your county administrator and Celeste and Sharon and Diane can all, and Mickey all contest, it's some of the things we spend so much time on insurance for our employees, and it's just outrageous. And I'm losing people, not, you know, because of salaries, but because the cost of insurance and family plans and deductibles and out of pockets, and it's just tough, you know. And I probably got one of the better insurances of all the constitutionals, even y'all in the school board, you know, but it's still got to be improved upon. This, once again, is the breakdown showing the budget in yellow of overall sheriff's budget, and then mine in green, my obligation in green, and y'all's in blue, if you will. Next slide depicts the same breakdown, a little bar graph showing the different things that I've already alluded to. Once again, another graph showing where the breakdown, you know, of what my obligation is, what the, you know, how much of the budget is taken up with each division. This is the line item budget showing what my financial obligation is and statutory. Once again, the county's function that I do for y'all and what that cost breakdown is, and then the overall budget as it relates to what I get impacted with, operating on 18.7 last year, requesting a little over 20 million this year, which equates to an overall 7.4% increase for what you got to do and what I've got to do overall. The bulk of that, as we all know, is within the employees and the salary increases that I'm trying to work on with retention. You know, one of the many things that we work together on is I could be asking for a 5% or 10% contingency. You know, we don't do that because we've got an agreement amongst us that if I overspend, or, you know, if you know, anomalies show up, be it overtime for a hurricane, be it medical costs is what we experienced last year, I don't have to come back to you with a contingency and ask for additional funds. Currently, the way that it's set up, that I do. And to the public, well, here's the sheriff, he got $20 million and now he doesn't have enough to operate on. He's not managing his budget properly. So y'all get the hammer from our constituents as well as I get the hammer. So doing good business, it would make better sense for me to have the 5% or 10%, but I know that's double reserves and we so choose not to do that. But we got to emphasize that to the public that we continue to do that. And then I try, and have successfully done it except for last year, be able to absorb that extra cost within my budget, being physically responsible as I always have. It's taken away from my return, but I'm staying, right where I need to be and spending the amount of dollars that I feel that needs to be spent and be good physically responsible for our constituents. So that basically brings me to the end of my presentation. I stand ready to answer any questions that you all may have of me.
All right.
Just a clarification.
Commissioner Goodbridge, or Culpepper. Sorry.
I have a question for you.
Oh, also, I'm sorry, Commissioner, but in your packet is also the finalization 3-year report on the strategic plan. Once again, we spoke about it when I give you all your budget books back in June, but this is just showing you the standard that your sheriff's office is holding itself to accountability-wise, and also my Citizens Advisory Board, taking the input from them, so trying to work on transparency so people know what I'm trying to hold and doing and what I'm holding my office and my staff and my great team to serve this community.
I just want a clarification. When I asked you about the leash laws / the other part of it, that they have to be under your control off the property, I was told that there is no leash law. There is a ordinance that says if the animal is off your property, it has to be under your control, quote unquote. So was I told wrong?
I feel that you've been told wrong. I think that the only way to control that animal is to have that animal on a leash.
So that does say that in the ordinance?
Yes, sir.
They have to
In
be
my
on-
interpretation,
okay,
yes, sir.
Then my apology.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Okay. Any questions, comments for the sheriff?
Sheriff,
Commissioner Goodbridge.
from what I understand, the court system has kind of lightened the load on sending people to jail in the last year. Is that?
We had a great county judge, and we just recently got a new great county judge. So there's some of the changes that have happened. Judge Wallace is currently doing some sentencing at first appearance, which is expediting the county court very well. Sadly, the circuit court, in relation to Judge Heisey, who's currently our sitting circuit court judge, he does an awesome job. That our system, you're innocent until proven guilty, and there's a system in play, so it's, we had one circuit judge here when I started in 1987, and today we have one circuit judge. We have a circuit judge that comes in and works on family court and dependency, which we all can understand 30 years ago, numbers were here. 2020, the numbers are here. So once again, that judge is completely swamped, but it's taking it off of the one circuit court judge. But there's so many cases, Commissioner, where, on average 7 months before a felon goes to court. A lot of those are repeat violations on community control or probation. And although I'm proud of our $70 a day per diem, which is less, Sheriff Bradshaw's per diem is $130 a day. It's still 7 months at $70 a day. That, and they've been to prison, 2 times, 3 times. They've had 50 felony convictions, or 50 felony arrests. They've had 20 felony convictions, but we're still dealing with them in our system. The taxpayers are still having to pay for that. So once again, as Commissioner Culpepper alluded to, the discipline, the penalties aren't fitting the crimes to a certain extent.
I will,
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
I'll just comment on what the sheriff talked about a little bit about the Public Safety Coordinating Council. I spoke to Judge Merman the other day, and after the 1st of August, we're going to set up a meeting so that the sheriff and myself can go talk to him about how to improve the way to get these people out of jail. And we'll just have to explore some ways to do that, because I think if we sit down and caucus about it, I think there's ways that we can work it out, and he's open to doing that when I talked to him the other day. So that's one thing. I will comment on the drug court piece and the mental health piece. We got about 25 people out of mental health that don't go to jail at $70 a day. And we got, Lord knows how many. When I was at drug court the other day, they filled up the whole place, and I would say there's probably 60 or 70 people in drug court that go through that, and his completion rate is about 88% that don't go back to jail. So 20% or 17, 18% that we feel they kind of falter, for a better word. So I think those particular products are working. Do they work as well as we want them to? Probably could work better if we keep on working at it.
I heard a statistic the other day out of DOC. The recidivism rate is 69% at 18 months following their release.
Yeah.
So it's still pretty high. So
Still pretty high from down there. Commissioner Culpepper.
The problem is our society has gone so liberal on these people that there's no teeth in the law. There's no fear of committing a crime. Oh, well, in order to get my life better, I'll just go to prison and get colored TV and movies and steak and everything. That's the problem. They live 10 times better than our military does when they're living in tents without air conditioning. Yet we have to treat them because, they're just the poor people. It's all mental illness. It's not mental illness. It's dirt bags going out doing drugs. I've never seen a person have someone stand on their shoulders, pull their mouth open, and pour drugs down their mouth.
well,
They do that. They know they're doing wrong.
But I do have to say that over my career, the opioids and some of our pharmacists, our doctors, and in our pharmacists, the opioids have made addicts out of some people that have legitimately needed the medications. And it's, people self-medicating, if they drink, and then drinking causes marijuana causes something else. So it's just a vicious circle. And I just feel that, from the law enforcement and dealing with I just went down to West Palm 2 weeks ago and met with the Attorney General and several of the South Florida law enforcement officers and trying to work on a mental health initiative. Once again, as we're doing here through drug court, through mental health court, is try to get these people tooled with what they need to make them successful, to put them back in society. What we've been doing over the last 33 years or 30 years here in Okeechobee is putting them in jail, letting them out, putting them in jail, letting them out. And that's not working. And once again, in my $20 million budget, there's no work on recidivism or on prevention. But I try to do everything that I can. I let any service that, can come and offer these people, to make them successful, mental health, faith-based, drug rehab, whatever those kind of things are, to try to identify these people. Because it used to be years ago, Commissioner, that if you had an addict in your family, the very few families had that. But today, every one of us have somebody in our families pretty much that are dependent on some type of substance.
Yeah. Sheriff,
So it takes a lot.
Sheriff, I think we're going to, in order to try to get through this sheriff's budget, we're going to go into mental health or drug court, one of the two. So,
Yes, sir.
Anybody got any comments to the sheriff?
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Owens?
and I know I'm preaching to the choir all the way around, but, and the task that you have to provide, the services that you provide to our community, they are expensive, and it's a job that most people don't want to have to take on. So I commend you and your employees for what you do, because it becomes an increasingly more difficult task every day. The task that we have up here is trying to come up with what we think is that balance between what the taxpayers can afford and how that impacts the level of service and what we're willing to compromise as a result of that. And so in order for us to accommodate the budget that you've presented, it's not sustainable in terms of us putting that on the backs of the millage and the tax rates. And so we're going to have to try to figure out where we can make those compromises. I'm not going to say so that we're both happy, because I don't think we're going to all be happy. I think it's going to be a compromise situation where we're making very difficult decisions that then everybody has to go out and make happen. And where that balance is, I don't know. We'll find out as we move on. But I guess to start thinking in terms of what positions are most critical, and again, looking at, and I understand what you're trying to do with the retention. I think that personally, as one commissioner, I don't know that we can do the 2,000 this year. We may have to split the difference, but that's something else we may have to negotiate, which again puts you in a difficult position as well as us. So I'm hoping we can find the balance. It's a very difficult task on both sides. We'll get there, and I don't think either one of us are going to be happy in the end, but we'll figure it out.
And I appreciate that, Commissioner, and I agree. You know, and I think moving forward, Noel's opinion, if you will, you know, you're short time because you only got 30 days to set that millage. You know, so is that enough time? You know, should we start? Especially my budget is due June 1. Let's start June 1. You know, it's nothing comfortable, and respecting where we're all at. Take input from the public. Try to make everybody understand, you know, that if we're going to cut these services, we've got to have more time than 30 days to try to get the message to everybody.
And I
Just
agree.
my input.
And I agree with you 100%. In fact, I've already had that conversation with the county administrator regarding our budget overall, that we need to step back and look at how we're doing this process.
Yes, ma'am.
I want to say one more thing.
Commissioner Culpepper.
If you look at everybody on this board, and I'll bet you pretty much everybody out here, at one time in their life, they've been on opioids for an injury. And I don't think there's any people out here that are hooked on drugs today because of it. You know what that's called? It's called personal responsibility for your own actions. And they don't do it. Why? Because society's allowed them to do it with these ridiculous laws that we have right now with no punishment. But I will tell you one thing. I am so proud that I live in a county with a sheriff that would never let his staff go through the humiliation that happened in New York City yesterday when the water was dumped on officers and everything else. And you know why that happened? I'll tell you exactly what happened. It happened because that sheriff or that police chief or whatever had to answer to a town council or a commission that was more worried about getting elected than they were protecting their officers, because all they worry about is, I want to get reelected. And that's what's wrong with this freaking country today. People are making decisions based on the next election instead of on the next generation doing the right freaking thing. Amen.
Okay. Commissioner Hayes, I think you got the floor. I bet you can't follow that.
No, I'm not.
Go ahead, take a break.
Sheriff, I think you probably answered my question a while ago. That you heard me ask Ms. Sharon, and you're certainly more in the know of the results we get, but I understand from what you just elaborated to us, you see results in the drug court and the mental health court. Okay. And I'm fine with that. And I'm fine with whatever we can do. My question is do we need 25 of them? I mean, now we've got 3. We're bringing in Veterans Court, and we see that's going to cost extra. and the chairman just said, well, that's for one case this next time. Can those, and this is not for you to answer, I appreciate that, I'm just talking to the commission, I mean.
And if I may, Commissioner, it's a pay now to save later. It's something that's going to take a while on the return of that investment. You know, it's spending money to save money in the long run, but you have to hold the course long enough to see the productivity out of it. And the way with the family I alluded to, if we could save one of that 25, I feel we're going to be money ahead.
I'm just saying maybe you're on mental health court, let's change the name to special court, you know, and they can take the veterans and the mental health, and we don't have a double charge. I mean, it's the same staff, same judge, same everything.
You're not getting a double charge. You're not getting a double charge. Really, you aren't. We had mental health court and veterans court together. That's what we do. And that was the reason I asked the question, is that it's all one. All we do is that we take the veterans first.
Okay, let's just name it the same then.
It's been that, but the problem was that somebody wanted to call, and I'm not sure exactly how it come about, but they wanted to have a veterans court, and it doesn't require additional support. All right? Let me give you a good example. This commission allocates $43,000 to mental health court. You allocate $12,000 to drug court. That's it. That's all you delegate. It's all you.
Whoa. There's a lot of staff that goes into drug
I'm
court.
talking about dollar.
I'm talking about total cost. There's a lot more than that in drug court. You've got the judge. You've
I
got all the
understand that.
staff.
I got that.
Yeah.
I'm getting to there.
Okay.
I'm getting there. That's what you dedicate in hard dollars here. And then if you go back to the judges and to the piece parts of what they do, and the results of what you're trying to get to, is that we spend a lot of money trying to put people in jail, and I think he alluded to this about 10, 15 minutes ago. We spend a lot of money trying to put people in jail. We don't spend any money trying to keep them out of jail.
Okay. But all I'm saying is just talk about total dollars when we're talking. I'm not against the court. I'm for it. But let's don't say it costs $14,000. Let's say it costs whatever the total cost of it is, you know. And if it costs $75,000, that's probably okay, because it's providing a service. Mm-hmm. But let's don't do the misconception that we're only funding this little bit amount, and that's all it costs, because that's not what it costs to taxpayers.
Well, the problem, to be quite frank with you, is that the judge, if you break down the judge does a lot of different things. The state attorney does a lot of different things. The public defender's court or public defender does a lot of different things. And then we got other people on the outside that have been paid by, we got a $1.4 million grant that we paid mental health court on. Mm-hmm. So those people are being paid through that process.
I understand.
In that sense.
It's still taxpayers' dollars. That's all I'm saying. What is the total taxpayers' dollars there?
It's probably, if you get down to it, we said 43 and the 12, you're talking about, that's 55. You're probably, if you looked at all the piece parts, you're probably talking $100,000.
Plus $1.5 million grant.
The $1.5 million grant is spread across many other things.
Well, but a portion of it. And I'm please understand.
I'm not sure where we're going with
it.
this, but at the end of the day.
No, I'm just saying, what's the total cost? Mr. Chairman, I'm not against it. I'm just saying, let's just tell the public what the cost is, you know. To me, that helps justify a budget that other people bring in here, because that's what they're up against, is just trying to prevent that today. I don't think the public knows all the drug addicts and the things that our people have to respond to, and that's what I'm trying to bring out.
Well, I think it's a good point you bring out, and I think that the issue is that when you delineate all of the piece parts, as you're asking, I think you're putting in about $100,000, and then you got the $1.4 million, which is a $400,000, or $1.2 million, which is $400,000 for 3 years. That $400,000 goes out to pay for plant a seed and all the mental health pieces that go into the analysis and all these people that use it. So you're talking $400,000. You're talking about $500,000 roughly a year that you're trying to keep people out of his jail. But in the same instance, I got people in his jail that play games, right? And we've had that discussion. So he's kind of like up against a wall because, as what we wanted to talk to the chief judge to see whether or not can we try to expedite some of those people who have sat in the jail for 700, 800, 900 days. I don't know if we can or not. He doesn't know if we can, but at least we're willing to go and sit with the chief judge to figure it out.
Mr. Chairman, and I appreciate that. What I'm trying to get across is for the service we provide, there's a lot of money, a lot of taxpayer money spent on very few, whether it's fire calls, or whether it's EMS calls, or whether it's the sheriff's department. The general public pays a lot of money that a very low percentage population of our people use. And that's today's society. We can't change that. But just for the record, you know, that's a lot of people don't see where the firemen go. A lot of people don't see where the sheriff goes. Most of us don't have a clue what happens over here in the court building, you know. So that's where I'm coming from is what we're spending trying to do the right thing.
Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Goodbread.
I think where some of the confusion comes from is the clerk of the court stood before us today and said, I need an extra person because of Veterans Court. And I think that's where Commissioner Hazley said, are there some efficiencies that we could build into this to help save something like that, to help even, and it doesn't matter what you call it, but are there some efficiencies that we're not seeing that could help? We can still provide the same service to the community and to the veterans and to
There are efficiencies and there's other preventions, but that's where the 70 turns into 130 per diem a day.
That's correct.
You know, when you look at Sheriff Bradshaw's, you know, they got a mental health team of 24 staff that are part of the mental health team, and as they go and they find this person that, you know, that's acting a little different than most, if you will, and they need some therapy and they need a psychiatrist, they got a psychiatrist that goes to their house trying to keep them from committing the same crime or committing a crime that's going to cause them to have to come to jail. You know, so it all comes to that service, come to a cost, come to what the folks are able to afford to do, and trying to be as efficient with the current dollars that we have that we're doing. You know, so that's where, you know, the law enforcement operation falls under what we raise in ad valorem. It's the other functions that we have to do, that we're obligated to do, that where's the funding going to come for those? You know, but the law enforcement function that we're talking about is covered by ad valorem. So
To address your comment, Commissioner Goodbread, is that yes, it did cause confusion. And it shouldn't have caused confusion because there was no reason to add additional person for Veterans Court because it's all inclusive of mental health court by which it's paid for via that.
See, but that's like, I'm sure that's where Commissioner Hazley said, well, why do we had one person for one person?
It's all
one veteran. I'm just saying that's kind of where the confusion, I think, up here, because I thought the same thing. And so
that's the reason I asked the question. That's the reason I made the comment, is that we've had like one or two veterans because we have all of these people in mental health court in certain stages of mental health court, just like in drug court. And all of a sudden now, just because we take 2 people or 3 people or whatever the number was, I believe it's quoted to me either 1 or 2, and say we're going to put them up front in mental health court day, so now I got to add the additional person. I don't buy that.
Well, I'm just saying that's what we were told, so I could understand Commissioner Hazley's.
I understood where he was coming from.
And I'm not saying you're wrong, but why not have it one court?
It is one court. That's the problem. It is one court.
No, you've got 2 names
No,
now.
I don't care what the names. It's one court day.
Okay, then why don't we call it special court day? And we don't have mental health, and we don't have veterans. We don't have this conversation.
Okay.
The chair.
I give up.
I think a lot of, Commissioner, a lot of that is the cap, that name. Mental health and veterans are very popular right now. So those grant dollars are very associated to mental health court to Veterans Court. So that enables us to ask for those additional dollars from the state. Once again, it is coming from our taxpayers in some shape, form, or fashion, you know, so, but that money comes back to us filtered through the state because we got a mental health court or we got a Veterans Court. If we had special court, I don't know that those grant dollars would be available to
That
us,
makes sense.
Hold on,
That makes
hold on a
sense.
second.
if that makes any sense at all.
Well, the thing about it, you're true, it comes out of the feds, really, because
State or federal dollars, but
The federal dollars-
still got to have that catch-all name.
right, they delineate it down, but it really, the mental health court piece is really going into mental health court, whether you got vets or not, and I'm not sure why we wanted to have just a name. The name don't mean anything to me. It's all, we got them all in one day, 1 hour. That's how we do it. Commissioner Culpepper.
Just round numbers. What do we spend a year on New Horizons, all these different organizations, the one I can't think of the name of it. What do you think we spend a year on that?
Well, New Horizons, you just said, I think in here is 52,000, and they provide mental health services across Okeechobee County.
Let me make a suggestion. I want to run this by you, Sheriff, because I know it's worked. It's not my new idea. If we took all the money that we spend on all these courts and all these drug rehabs and mental health and all this other stuff, now, veterans is a whole different ballgame because they get PTSD defending us, and that's how they end up with that. Not something that they, out of being irresponsible. That's what happened to them. By the way, now firefighters are now can qualify for PTSD, all right? What if you took that money and you hired, because we know this drug starts pretty low down on the age chain in middle school. We know it's there. We know it's there. What if you went out and you took that money and you bought 4 drug dogs, and you took your officers and you went to those schools unannounced and you checked the lockers and you walked through the classrooms and alerted on the kids that are carrying those drugs, and you immediately sent them right to the Achievement Academy or whatever you want to call it. They don't call it reform school anymore, all right? You know how long that drug problem would last in that school? About 3 weeks. Because if they knew that any time that those dogs could come into that classroom and sniff them out and they're carrying it, I know for a fact, I've been told, because they know they can get away with it. Just having that officer sit there, that's great. If somebody comes in and tries to bring a gun in, that's fine. That's not helping the drug problem. And every problem that you see today is a result of drugs. It's the scourge of this country. And if we don't start doing something about it, and instead of being reactive, being proactive to stop this, we won't have a country left, because we'll have more people in mental court than we have out there holding jobs down. And you know yourself, you said it. Everything you see today is a direct result of drugs. And that's it. So that's a good start. And you know what? You know, come up with that idea? An 18-year-old kid running for Palm Beach County Commission back about 20 years ago. He said, bring in dogs from the kennel, because the kids don't know whether they're trained dogs. Get them out of the kennel, walk around the schools. I'll tell you what, you'll see it stop.
Could I ask one question?
Sure.
In corrections, I see you have 5 new vehicles. Enlighten me why you have to 5 vehicles.
In corrections,
Yeah.
I don't know that you're,
New lease, I should say, you're leasing 2019 5 vehicles.
that number does not sound right, sir.
Here you go.
But a lot of what we're doing
I think
is
that's-
going to leases.
Yeah.
So that's where the debt services is increasing.
It just
so-
shows 5 vehicles.
I don't know where you're getting your number, but I'm showing a capital increase of that of last year of 35. We went from 6319 to 3520. Debt services is 37,000. So I don't see where you're getting 5 vehicles from. That's your original one from June.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Let's go back.
I don't think your numbers are accurate.
Well, these ain't my numbers. So trust me. Let's see if we got the same number over here. Corrections. Just give me a second, Noel. got the same number in this one too. There you go.
I'm willing to sit down and look at the numbers, but whenever we get out of here and take a look at it.
Let's take a look at it.
But I don't think that they're correct.
Okay, it just kind of stuck out at me when I.
But so noted, I'll make sure that we look at it and I'll get back to you.
Okay, appreciate it.
But you do have some vehicles that you have to do transports.
Oh, absolutely. Yes, sir. There's probably 8 vehicles in transport, depending on what we've got to do, vans, cars, local doctor's appointments. If I got to take 12 to the prison at one time, I got a bus to do that. So it's a matter of getting those, swapped out and done, so it's.
Yeah, the only thing is on the rest of them, you kind of like denoted what they were. And on this one, on this sheet here, there's no designation.
I don't see 5 vehicles in corrections, but once again, I'll get back to you on that.
All right, any other questions for the sheriff?
Just one quick one. Is there any way legislative that we can stop this game that they play in jail where, I'm going to represent myself. Okay, then it gets to court. Well, no, I want to hire an attorney. I want a court-appointed attorney. Oh, no, 6 months later, I don't want that because I don't like this guy. Is there any way to stop that?
Well,
because
I think
that's what's running your bill up.
That's what the commissioner and I are going to talk to the circuit court judge, the chief circuit judge. Every 2 years, I think that changes. So once a new one is settled in, then, it's kind of like our state representatives. Once they get accustomed and really doing something, then they're switching. So then somebody's got to get acclimated, and the process is just long. So I don't know that Judge Heisey does a great job, as I said, but there is due process. So they've got to be given their appellate time. They've got to be, allowed continuances. You can't just hold them hard fast as what we think that you can and say, by God, this is just it. We're going to court tomorrow. Because then they've got a right to appeal, and it's a whole sticky situation. And once again, as we see the society today being very liberal, so is the court system. So as I alluded to earlier, it's very, very hard, to get that done.
That's why I would never try to do a job of a sheriff or a police officer.
And I'm the one that's got to burden that.
I know.
Burden that
and
responsibility.
That's not right. That's not fair. Not fair to you.
All right, any other questions for no? All right, thank you, sir.
Sheriff.